Hi, y'all. It's Bridget Cutchaw with Real Things Living. Today, my guest is Jeremy Horne. He is the founder and CEO of Winnie, which is an app part of the Human Connection Company. Can you say hi, Jeremy?
I sure can. Bridget, thanks very much for having me. And apologies, my phone just did its little nut there in the background where you know my intro. But
That's
it,
okay.
it is a pleasure to be here. And I must say, I spent a little bit of time in the US in Chattanooga, and I really enjoyed the way that you guys. I know that's not where you are, but I love the way you guys say you all. It feels like
You're
such
close to where I'm at. I'm actually just an hour and 15 minutes from Chattanooga. I,
right. Okay.
I, I'm a military brat, but I grew up mostly in the South, but based on the military bases. And my mother is from Europe, but I think if I lived in Australia, I have that, I could pick up I pick up the accent of the people I'm around.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when I'm in France with my family there, I kind of, I'm not perfect, but I think that's what it is. You try to adapt to your environment as well, right?
Well, and it's another way of connecting with people, right? I mean,
Yes.
yeah, if you can find different ways of just feeling closer to the people you're speaking with, it's another way of opening up that
I I say
intimacy.
y'all just because I'm just trying to be funny in a way. Because I joke. I'm sorry, I'm a French redneck because my mom's from France and I grew up in the South. But I try to find humor in situations, and you get that. You've traveled. Before we recorded, you traveled all over the world. So I think that is so important because you see different cultures, right? And you're more open to being, you know, empathetic. Is that the right word?
It is. I think it is. I think there's only good things that come from exploring more of the world and meeting different people and yes, we all have our differences, but at the end of the day, we're all humans. We're all trying to look after our families. We're all trying to do the right thing. And I think if you can just get that right, then it gives us a much better chance of just having a happier, healthier world to live in for all of us.
I love what you're saying because we're definitely in line with our mindset. We have different backgrounds, but you're right. We're all similar, and we just have to support each other the best way that we can. And I think you've probably seen it too. There is a lot of fear for some
Yeah.
reason and I think that is not the right thing to do. And that just, I'm one of those people that I always stood up and said the right thing, but I would try to do it in a nice way.
Yeah.
And I think because of, or like I said, I lived in different places. I've seen the way, I don't know why some people bully other people if they're different. They have something going on, the bullies back, at home maybe. But I've seen it personally, and that's why I was teased a little bit when I was younger because my mother didn't speak proper English, or especially with a Southern accent. But
Yeah.
but I'm like, I love my mom. This is my mom, and I would and this is me, right? And just like my name is Bridget, people in the US don't know how to say it. It's really Brigitte, but in the US, I don't want them to feel bad. I'll say it the way you think it should be said. And I'm not offended by if you say my name wrong. Some people are, but it doesn't faze me.
In Australia, it would get abbreviated to just Bridge because Aussies are very good at abbreviating everything. So,
Yes,
yeah.
they are. I am
Yeah.
called, excuse me, one of my nicknames is B
Yeah,
or
there you go.
Bridge. And I was used to be young, I was called BB because my last name was, different syllable, so it was BB. But I think it's okay. And I love that how you're trying to focus on making us realize we are all connected humans. And you have that concept of the digital you, which is where this Winnie app came from, right? Is my understanding. So how did that come about?
Yeah, so I mean, we can go way back, really. I mean, it all began when I was a kid, and I had a VHS video camera back when recording video was just not as easy as it is now. You can just pull your phone out and press record. And my grandparents had come over from Manchester. We were living in Perth in Australia, which is one of the most remote cities in the world. I mean, anywhere you want to go from Perth is at least a 5 hour flight. So Bali is pretty much the nearest kind of international trip, and that's a good 5 hours away on an aeroplane. Even to get across from Perth all the way over to the other side of the country is again, it's around 5 hours. So growing up in a secluded city and all of our family distributed around the world, some family in Manchester, some family in New Zealand. Um, we got very good, really, at just having good conversations and navigating crackly long distance phone lines. We used to send audio tapes to each other. And my grandparents came over, and I used this video camera to ask them some questions about the olden days and what was it like in the war in England, and what was my mum like when she was a little girl. And I don't know why I asked these questions. I certainly did a lot of things with that camera which were incredibly boring. But of all the things I did with it, this turned out to be something that had huge value, especially once my grandparents were no longer around. And over the years, I think I recognized that there were two things came out of it. One was even as a kid, I enjoyed learning about my family and learning about them and learning about things that I was connected to through them, this different kind of world, right? Like they were telling stories before electricity and how the gas man used to come and light the gas lamps in the street and things like this. So it was fascinating to have this conversation with my grandparents who had lived through these experiences, especially the war again. Like there was so much TV as a kid as well. That was all these kind of war movies and so on. So I think I recognized that that was just enjoyable connecting through that sort of conversation. But then I think I also recognized that what had come out of it had great value. Like my mum was always very keen to know where it was. Was it on a videotape? Had we taped over it and whatever, accidentally put Baywatch on the tape, whatever it might be. Like it was clear that this was very important what had been captured. And over the years, I did more of it. So I had friends ask me to interview their parents and their grandparents. So over many years now, I've recorded hundreds of life stories. And in doing so, I've had friends suggest that I turn it into something that more people can get access to. And a couple of years ago, a close friend of mine had interviewed his parents and said, "Well, let's raise some funds and turn this into a company, and let's figure out how this can be done at scale, essentially." So then we focused on the Winnie app. That's our very first experience. So that's all about connecting family and friends through more meaningful conversations and asking each other story-based questions, so questions, life story questions, and things like that. But our platform is the Human Connection Company, and it's all sorts of different experiences that bring people closer together, including what used to be called Digital You, which is now Forever You, and that is a very authentic digital avatar of any of us, anyone who decides that they want to have this. But it's based on all of these stories that you've recorded over time. So that, and look, the best example of this is my mum. So my mum passed away a couple of years ago. She had Alzheimer's for about 6 years, but I had so much video of my mum long before Alzheimer's was around. So we've got a very authentic, so many hours of video of my mum just talking about her life. And I took all of those videos and we created an audio avatar of my mum that you can chat with, and she'll tell you about her life and she'll give you tips and so on. But the most important thing in all of this is you know that it's authentic because you can see the videos and the audios that she recorded in order for that to become an experience. So that's basically what we're doing as part of the Human Connection Company.
I like that. It's more than just words. It's actual, you hear their voice with the video.
Yeah.
I didn't really have access to a video when I was young, but I did have a Polaroid camera. That was a big, right. I'm probably older than you, but that was a big deal. And it's so important to just to capture that. And hearing their voice is different than, well, writing is different too. I like to write stories, and it's just amazing the stuff that you find out about your family,
Yeah.
especially what our parents have been through, stuff that we take for granted. Um, Even though we think we have it bad, not really, right?
Well, yeah. Yeah, but that goes all the way back through your family tree. So, what's really interesting is that when you hear these stories of people who do have stories that have been handed down through the generations, and you start to appreciate how many things have happened along the way in order for you to be who you are and where you are and to have what you have, and understanding that, I think, gives you a greater appreciation, just more gratitude in general for the life that you have. So in my mind, only good things can come out of having good conversations with the people you care about and learning more about your family and your family history. So, and again, that's kind of our motivation. That answers the why. Why do we do this? It's really that.
I like the your positive aspect. We need more of that in this world. We really truly do. I like the idea of this app that you created. And this is something, it's just for a mobile phone, or is it on a desktop too? I'm curious.
Yeah, so the Winnie app is only on a mobile, and at the moment it's only on Apple. So we've launched really what is a minimal viable product, an MVP, so that we can just test out what works, what doesn't work, and then we can refine that. If you record a story, you can share that story with anyone, and they can click on the link, and it will just bring up a website, and then you
Okay.
can watch the story. But if you want to record the stories and record your own stories, then that's where you're using the app. But that's kind of step one for us. We've got all sorts of different ideas as to how we're going to make it as accessible as possible. It's all about removing the friction, really.
I was thinking too, that's something, my mom is very, she's 84. I don't think she'd know how to use it. She has an iPhone now, but we have to help her. They weren't around the tech. I'm the generation, we're in between. I grew up both, right? The analog and the tech, and whereas my son's all
A
digital.
very fortunate generation, I really do. Likewise, like to have seen the world before mobile phones and before the internet, and to remember what it was like to have to rotary dial and to get past the gatekeeper on the other side of the phone when you're calling up a friend or potentially asking someone out on a date. Like to have gone through all of that, I actually think yeah, it's kind of a privilege in my mind anyway, and to still be around now and see where we're at with AI and everything else that's happening. It's a really unique generation. Out of all the times you could have been born, I think it's an amazing time to be alive.
I appreciate this because we experience both perspectives, and then trying to help my mother to try to, that is a little frustrating sometimes. Sometimes I have to get my one of my sons involved because it's
Yeah.
hard to I mean, it's just that their brains aren't wired for the
Tech.
tech.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's right. That's right. I mean, and the trouble is when something seems so obvious to us, we make a lot of assumptions about them, how they're going to use it. But you really need to assume that they're looking at something they've never seen before and kind of get back to basics. And one of the ways that we deal with that, because we do want older users to be part of the platform and capture those stories, is the ability for it to, so Winnie can just give you a call on the phone and you can just have a chat. So it can just chat,
Oh,
yeah, so you can chat with your mum and ask your mum questions, or you could be on a call and just ask your mum questions on a call. So it's a more interactive connection between you and your mum. And then as you're speaking, you can start recording those stories that come out of that. So she doesn't necessarily have to sit there and try to navigate an app and figure all that stuff out. You can
yeah.
just you can just have a call and capture those stories that way.
That makes it very simple. They need that. They want to be able to just not have to think too much, because that is so critical to have back. I have an idea to write another book with about my mom and my mother-in-law, but make it, I would fictionalize it, but I have some stories, written stories from my mother-in-law. My mom's still here, but I just like, oh my, they're opposite yet they're still, it's just amazing so much we can learn.
Yeah,
And I'm like, wow, more like my mom than I realize as I get older too, which is kind of funny.
it happens to all of us. Yeah, I think, which is a good thing. Yeah.
It is so awesome that you're doing this. And I like how you, before recording, you mentioned you were on this caravan trip, and that really probably helped you pause and reflect on what you needed to focus on.
Yeah, it did. I did. Look, I mean, everyone should take time out from just the day-to-day of life because I think it does give you a just a different perspective. And for us, that was an adventure in a caravan. I'm conscious. I've always been very conscious that kids just grow up so fast. I watch my niece just go from being a little girl to suddenly a young lady to now an adult, and it seemed to happen so quickly. Like I didn't feel I changed too much. My friends didn't change too much, but kids just changed so quickly. So I really wanted to make sure that I had lots and lots of time with my son, just while he's still a kid, and we can just do these fun kid things together. And the beauty of doing a caravan trip, there's really two big advantages. One is it's actually really cheap to do. So if you compare it with living at home and whatever, paying a mortgage or paying rent, paying the bills and everything else, versus essentially just filling up the car and dragging, in our case, I think you call them trailers in the US. So in Australia, a caravan is more convenient because it means you can go places, you can leave the caravan there, you can go off and explore in your 4x4. A lot of the places you want to get to don't necessarily have decent roads, so you're going off the
Right.
beaten. But it gave us a chance to see the country where I'd spent a lot of my life, and just spend so much time together as a family, and yeah, just kind of pause from the day to day of making, earning money and everything else that comes with structured life, basically.
I like that aspect because I'm totally into that. Creating memories with your family, especially your children, is better than buying fancy things for them. So that's just kind of how I see it. I was very fortunate. The dad that right, my mom was married a couple times to military guys, but they were very into exploring, and maybe that's where I get it from, hiking and taking trips across the U.S. When we can, and that means so much to me.
Yeah.
Then I wouldn't remember if they bought me anything like a fancy pair of jeans. You know what I'm saying? I don't remember that.
That's not the stuff you remember, right? In fact, you mentioned Polaroids earlier, and
Yeah.
Polaroid just did a really, really great campaign. I don't know whether you saw it, but they had a campaign where they'd have like a Polaroid photo, and the caption would say, "Remember that time we met up and checked a few things out on our mobile phones." And then it's like, well, me neither, because you don't remember sitting around staring at your phones. It's not those things. But what you do remember are, as you said, these events where you all get together and do things. And the reason why Polaroid are actually kind of coming back into fashion is because people are really starting to appreciate the analog experience, like the tactile experience. And
Yes.
yeah, that you take a photo and you shake the camera and out it comes. And these sorts of things are starting to become important to people because we recognize how important they are to being human.
It is, and I think that's why physical books, I think, are
Yeah.
not going away. I mean, ebooks were real popular, but some people want something tactile in their hands. Some people, I think, want to, like you said, have a. I found a picture of my kids when they were yesterday. That was, I said, look, I took a picture of it with my iPhone and I texted it to them, but I said, this picture was taken with a real camera, right? I don't know if it was a Canon or Nikon. I can't remember how you pronounce that, but I had both. And
Yeah.
my younger son, we found a video that he created. He was going around taking different angles of the dogs around the house when he was little. But that is hilarious because that was his vision.
His view of the world, right? Yeah.
Yes. And I think I really definitely think it's great to have have children have access to something like that. I mean, not 24/7, right?
Yeah.
Because I've had my boys are men now, but trust me, but you don't want them to have it 24/7, but you want them to be curious. I think that's what you're doing. Your curiosity
Yeah.
helps you just find new solutions in the world, or what do you want to do next? And you don't want to be bored all the time. I don't, that's just how I like to, I should say busy, but like to do things like you're saying, go hiking or take pictures, look at the sunset. I think that is important.
And just connect with this incredible world that we have, and don't try to drown it out. I mean, like I got into the habit of wearing my noise canceling headphones when I was out for a run. And then it occurred to me one day that I was missing out on just running through the woods and just hearing the woods. And the beauty of it was when I took them off, and it reminded me how I always used to go for a run without headphones deliberately, because I'd find, for me, it was almost like meditation. And I'd
Yeah.
go for run, and if something was on my mind, I would, at the end of the run, I would have just figured it out. Whereas whilst I was listening to podcasts on my headphones, it was, it's interesting. I'm hearing things, learning things, but it was drowning out my own thoughts, and it was drowning out the experience of what I was doing. So, and it's not to say it's all one or all of the other, but now probably half the time I go out for a run, I just leave the headphones at home and go off and just enjoy it. And sometimes I'll put the headphones on. So
Right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're related somehow, Jeremy. I'm serious because
We're related. If you go back far enough,
right, I
we're
think we have some similar perspective on life. I run too, and I like you. I don't want to have be distracted with the headphones because then I'm not. I have to, as my age, I have to be careful, especially with the words where I'm putting my feet too. If I'm too focused on, think about that at my age, because you just don't know the roots. I do have occasionally. I've run in around a park and I'll have my phone on um without the earbuds in. People look at me like, I'm sorry, I have to listen to my music. But sometimes you gotta based on your pace. It just depends on, like you said, the
yeah.
situation. And I just it to me you bring some joy into the life when you're doing that, when you're capturing these stories and using videos. And I think more and more people have access to it. It used to be some barriers to have access to have these cameras, correct? And that's the plus side of the iPhone, things like the iPhone. And
It's it's
yeah, I
fair.
might get a new one because a better camera on there.
Well, and it's funny you say that because that's one of, in fact, probably the main reason why I have upgraded the phone over the years is because the cameras get so good and the video for me is just so important, that every time there is a big upgrade on the phone, generally I'll take it because I want to get, my view is if you're going to capture video or photos, you want to try and get the best possible quality that you can at that point in time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you don't have to worry about the editing aspect later, which adds
Yeah.
time. I read an article recently, and I don't remember specifically where, about movies in general, the film industry, they're going vertical stuff now.
Oh, is that right? Really? Wow.
Because of the younger generation, they're used to seeing things in vertical format because of access to mobile phones. And
Yeah.
that's how I'm not on TikTok. I mean, I looked at it once, or I just don't get, I mean, I just don't get it. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's scary in there to be honest. I mean, there is a lot of great content in TikTok, but what
Yeah.
I find is that the algorithm is so good that it'll very quickly figure out what you're going to be interested in, and
That's
it'll
true.
just serve it to you. So I literally I go in there because it relates to work and we need to do
Right.
marketing and like that. But I will set a timer on my watch to say, right, you got 15 minutes to go in when the timer gets off, like get out of there quickly. Otherwise, you can literally find an hour has disappeared, and you've almost gone into this like zombie trance of like just consuming
Yeah.
content.
I'm
Yeah.
guilty of that on YouTube. But
Yeah, I mean, but it's and the people designing these platforms are literally some of the best in the world at trying to figure out how to keep you connected to it. So you've really, that they're hacking human psychology on every possible way.
yes,
You've got no hope of fighting against that. So you've got to find your own hacks of getting in and out. And for me, it is literally I set a timer and I get out of there.
that's true. And well, that's what I think the film industry, they're realizing the younger generation, they're not watching as much because they're expecting a different format. And I thought that was interesting. And
I was talking about that the other night with my wife. I'm like, when I was a kid, like if there was a movie at the movies, that was a big deal. Like my parents said we're off to the movies. We were so excited about it. Whereas with my son, I'm like, weekend will come around. I'm like, hey, do you want, the weather's maybe not good.
right.
I'm suggest we go and see a movie. He's like, nah, I'm not fast. So because for him, there's so much availability of content, so he could quite
Yeah.
happily sit there and watch an episode of the Octonauts. And he's got anything that he kind of wants to see on demand. So that same experience, and I do feel this is the problem, is that when you've got access to so much, you then don't necessarily appreciate the everything that you've got. So,
Right.
when I was a kid, you only had limited amounts of TV that you could watch. There were
Yes.
three channels in Australia. We had to choose between the three. and you'd watch what was ever there. And like I said, you get the movie experience occasionally. Whereas these days, everything 24/7, thousands of different sources of content. I think it loses some of its appeal for that reason.
Right. It reduces the what's the word? Not perspective, but I'm not sure what I'm trying to say. But people just like meh, and they'll just swipe or go to something else. And like it made me think of when I was a kid. It was a big deal when like CNN or TBS came out. Oh my God, it was like the fourth channel,
Yeah, I think that's
and
right.
it was a. But I wasn't allowed. Or we couldn't. We didn't have a back then. You didn't. You couldn't tape like a SNL, or I love SNL by the way. It came out and that was something I would stay up for on Saturday night when I was old enough. My parents would let me watch it from 11:30 at night to like 1, but it would, you know,
That was a treat, right? That was a
it was a
treat.
big deal. And
Yeah,
I wasn't a young kid. I was like a teenager,
yeah.
but it was a big deal to me because it was live and that human experience. And I think that's kind of go back to your concept of the Winnie thing. It's making a closer, deeper connection rather than this broad stuff that's what's happening everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, that's and just making the time to consciously have better conversations with people you care about. There's the notion now of what's called social health, and it's just been acknowledged by the WHO. So they essentially said, all right, well, you've got your physical health, you've got your mental health, and you've got your social health. And the idea is that you need all three of those to be firing in order to have complete health. And just like going to the gym or going for a run or meditating, whatever it might be for your mental health, you need to be intentional about making time to build up your social health. And that's the beauty of it is out of all of them, it's probably the easiest because it literally just means calling up someone you care about and someone that you have fun with and having a chat with them. Or better yet, getting together with them and just doing something together. And again, we're starting to see these things bubble up, like all of these experiences that you and I grew up with, which was getting on the bikes and going out with your friends and having board game nights and whatever else. These things are starting to come back because I think humans are starting to feel like we're missing out on all of these experiences that make us humans. The novelty of everything around digital and social and so on is not necessarily helping us. And I think we're looking for better ways to address that. It's almost like if you've got access to fast food your whole life, at
Yeah.
some point you're going to be craving just some really good fresh fruit, vegetables, things like that, because your body is aware that you need to nourish it. And it's the same with our social connection.
That is so true. I mean, as you were talking about, yes, I'm nodding my head, but I agree with all this and that we need to pull back a little bit. And I like your back to your human connection company. We need to focus on that and on it's like harmony. Is that the right word? And in humanity and support each other and especially the kids. That's the generation
Yeah.
that we can help them the most, I believe, or they can help us too, because of the accelerated technology. You did earlier mention something about AI. I guess my last question, what do you think how we can control it a little bit better with our human aspect, right?
Yeah, and that's one of the questions that I've grappled with as well, is that we're all about human connection. It's one of the very few things that AI cannot replace because human connection requires humans to connect. You can't stick an AI in the mix there and then connect. So when we're developing out our Forever You product, which essentially is using AI to generate a version of me, the point of that is it's coming anyway. So like it or not, there are going to be digital versions of me and of you and of whoever else, because you can literally take seconds worth of this footage that we're doing here and you can take it, our voices, and suddenly there's a version of me and it looks like me and it sounds like me, but it isn't me because it's not based on my beliefs, it's not based on the life that I've lived and so on. So we're essentially addressing that through the fact that we're going to have these authentic avatars. And we've actually got a patent pending for this whole what we call an authenticity score. So let's say that you're chatting with me, but it's not me, it's my digital avatar. And whilst we're chatting, it's actually going to let you know if it's something I actually did say, or if it's something that I might have said, or if it's something that I never did say, but it's still kind of fun for the conversation. So you, on the other side of it, have transparency around, is this an authentic conversation that this person would have had, whether or not I'm still alive? So the example with my mum's no longer here, but her audio avatar is based on everything that she did say. So whilst anyone's chatting with her, they can see that they can click through to the video that she recorded to where she's actually saying that thing. So if they want, they can just watch the videos. But a more interesting way of getting access to those videos is to converse and ask questions, and then you can then see those videos. So that's really the piece where we're trying to balance the fact that AI is here, it's not going anywhere, avatars are going to be here. It's what our great grandkids are going to expect. They're going to speak with us like we're doing here. It's going to be very similar to this experience, but it's going to be a digital person that they're talking to. And we want to make sure that there are, kind of guardrails around how do you make sure that this version of me that they would chat with is as close to me as I wanted it to be. So that's really how we're doing that part of it. But the bit that counts the most is we want people to have conversations now whilst everyone's still alive, and have better conversations so that you get closer to your parents and you get closer to your siblings and you get closer to yourself by having just more meaningful conversations. And the side effect of all of that is then great. We've got all of these videos and all of these stories, and we can use them in any number of ways. You can create a forever you avatar if you want to, but either way, you've had these wonderful conversations, and nothing bad comes out of having good conversations with people you care about. There's you can't lose.
I love that. It's so important to it just having the heritage, understand that that'll make you feel better about yourself. And I think a lot of my understanding is the younger generation coming back, there for some reason, a mental stress for some reason. I don't know why, or what is causing that because of all the changes happening, but it's always happening, right? So we just need to help them
Too
deal with
much stimulation. I mean, that's really it. I mean, you compare growing up in the forest where you've literally got nature around you,
it.
with cars honking and sirens
Yes.
going off, and then you're staring at a phone and everything's flashy and moving, and then all of this happening. And the other thing is we are surrounded by all sorts of different radiation now, and we don't really know what the long term effect of that is. But we do know that if you're stuck next to a massive EMF generating device, whatever that might be, we do know that has an impact on your brain and on your body. I mean,
Yes.
that's not sort of tinfoil hat stuff. That is the
Oh yeah,
reality.
you probably don't know this, but I mentioned I was a military brat. I grew up on military bases, and I ended up as an adult, we learned later because of other health issues. I have a brain tumor, rare, that is caused by radiation exposure.
Wow.
And think about that, those power transfer stations and things like that. But I was young, so my body,
Yeah,
my
your
mom
body's,
is fine,
yeah.
but my brother and I got, isn't that weird that we got that? But again, it was my curiosity that poked around, and we figured it out. And but that's what it is. It doesn't matter anything in the future. We don't know what's going to happen. And I'm a believer in being in the moment when you can. And you still have to plan. Don't get me wrong. You have to,
Yeah, be
but
intentional. Yeah.
yeah, make time to be in the moment. And I love what you're doing, focusing on connecting with your friends and family. And that just makes us feel better each day, feeling valued.
Yes.
And I just want to be there for the best I can for the younger generation. And I'm also a big animal lover too. And that's why I have lots of photos and videos of my dogs because I'm a dog mom.
Yeah. Yeah,
Just
no, absolutely. I mean, and animals, I mean, they are part of our family, right? And they represent a stage of our own lives. I mean, when you lose a pet, you're also losing all of those years that you've spent with the pet as well. So you're not just losing, potentially your
oh
best
yeah.
friend, but there's a whole stage of life. You remember when you got them, you remember the things that you've done with them and everything else. So again, I think having whether it's photos, videos, and things like that. I mean, I've got so many photos of our cat that we dragged around the world. We took this poor little guy from Dubai to England, and then to New York, and then back to England, and then to Australia. By which time he was about 20, and I think he'd had enough. He's like, all right, I'm just gonna bow out at this point. Yeah.
You lived a lot. I'd say that it's just amazing. And it may, as you're talking, it made me think of a documentary called Inside the Mind of a Dog, I think. Why how dogs have what is the I should say I can't even think of the word, evolved to help us humans. We need them more than we realize.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we 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 need they help you be in the moment, right? They help you focus on what's important.
Dogs, dogs are so in the moment, right? I mean, and so stoic as well. I mean, so when we were traveling, we also did a bunch of house sits, pet sits, where we were looking after people's pets, which was so much better than staying in Airbnbs, because you get the experience of living in a neighborhood. You take the dogs for walks, you get to know people, you get the pets, which is great. And for anyone who is thinking about doing extended travel, it's definitely worth looking into. There's some really good websites. One of them is called Trusted House Sitters, which is the one that we used. We used it both ways. So we had people look after our cat when we went traveling. So we gave up our house and let people look after the cat. But you get it for free. I mean, you basically stay in someone's house, and because you're looking after their pet, they're happy for you to stay for free. And then vice versa. It's when we went away, we did the same thing with our cat. But we probably have looked after 20 different pets over the past couple of years, more often than not dogs, but we've had ponies, we've had pigs, we've had all sorts of things. And dogs are incredibly stoic, and they do, as you said, like just subconsciously, there's so much that they just bring to a space that helps people relax and feel good, and all of those wonderful things.
Yeah, that is I'm so glad you mentioned trusted houses. We'll check that out. I just
Just-
love this. Yeah, that is so wonderful what you're doing. We're trying to help the future. I think you're helping the future generation
I hope so.
to deal with this. That sounds like to me. I'm take my takeaway is that your goal. And so, where can people find you, Jeremy, online?
Yeah, so the best place to track me down at the moment, you can just go to winnie.chat. That'll get you through to our Winnie app website. You can learn about Winnie, and then from there you can find your way through to me. Or you can just track me down on LinkedIn. If you just do a LinkedIn search, Jeremy Dash Horne, you'll track me down there on LinkedIn. And I don't spend a lot of time on social channels, but I do spend a bit of time on LinkedIn. It's a nice place to connect. And then, yeah, otherwise, just track us down through the website and download Winnie and give it a go. Give us some feedback.
I love it. This is really awesome, Jeremy. I love your positive attitude, and you're
That's very
making me smile today just having this conversation.
Oh, likewise. No, I've really enjoyed the chat. And this what we're doing. This is human connection, right? I mean, like this is
Exactly.
feel it.
I
Yeah.
don't have a script. We didn't have. We're it just like let's just talk about what you're doing, and I'll ask you questions. This is awesome. I thank you again for your time, Jeremy. And for those that are listening, I will include the links that Jerry mentioned in the description. So if you're driving, focus on that, and then you can look later. Thank you again, Jeremy.
Thank you, Bridget.